She walked through the front door at 7:47 p.m. I knew because I'd been watching the reservation list all day. Table for 6, 8 p.m., name, Hollis, birthday celebration. When my hostess showed me the booking that morning, she had no idea why I went quiet for a full 30 seconds. Hollis, my mother's married name, the name she took when she married Ray, 6 months after my father died, the name that replaced mine on the mailbox of the house I grew up in, the name I'd spent 10 years trying to forget. I sat at my usual table in the back corner, the owner's table, tucked against the exposed brick wall where I could see the entire dining room without being noticed. The restaurant was packed, like it was every Saturday night. 200 seats, every one of them full. The kitchen was firing on all cylinders. The bar was 3 deep, and the servers were moving through the room like dancers in a choreographed performance. 7 restaurants, 12 years of work, and my mother had just walked into the flagship. She looked older. Of course she did. It had been a decade. Her hair was shorter now, dyed a brassy blonde that didn't suit her complexion. She'd put on weight, mostly in her face and arms. She was wearing a dress that was too tight and jewelry that was too loud, and she was laughing at something Ray said as the hostess led them to their table. Ray. He looked exactly the same. Same beer gut straining against his button-down shirt. Same smug expression like he owned every room he walked into. Same way of putting his hand on my mother's lower back, steering her like she was property. My hands tightened around my water glass. There were 4 other people with them. I recognized Ray's brother and his wife. They'd been at the wedding, back when I still lived in that house. And there were 2 younger women I didn't know, maybe nieces or cousins. And then there was the girl, 16, maybe 17, long dark hair, sullen expression, buried in her phone. She walked behind the group like she'd rather be anywhere else. And when she sat down, she immediately put in earbuds and tuned out the entire table. My half-sister, Brittany, the baby my mother got pregnant with 3 months after she kicked me out. I'd never met her, never wanted to. She was the replacement daughter, the do-over, the proof that my mother could start fresh and pretend her first attempt never existed. Looking at her now, slumped in her chair with that expression of teenage misery, I felt something unexpected. Not anger, not jealousy, just a strange, distant kind of recognition. That used to be me. Janelle appeared at my elbow, my general manager, 5 years running, the person I trusted more than almost anyone in the world. "That's her, isn't it?" she asked quietly. "Yeah. You want me to move them? We have a private room available." "No, let them stay." "Destiny, I'm fine." I wasn't fine. My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat, but I'd waited 10 years for this moment. I wasn't going to hide from it. Janelle hesitated, then nodded. "I'll make sure their server knows to give them excellent service. Kill them with kindness?" Something like that. She walked away, and I was left alone with my water glass and my memories. 10 years ago, I was 17 years old and sleeping in a 2003 Honda Accord with a broken heater. It was February. The temperature dropped below freezing every night. I had 2 blankets, a sleeping bag I'd bought at Goodwill for $8, and a hot water bottle that I filled up at gas station bathrooms before parking behind the abandoned strip mall on Route 9. The car smelled like mildew and French fries. I worked the closing shift at a fast food place 4 miles away, and by the time I got off at midnight, I was too tired to care about the smell. I'd crawl into the back seat, wrap myself in everything I owned, and shiver until I fell asleep. Some nights I didn't sleep at all. Some nights I just lay there, staring at the ceiling of my car, wondering how I'd gotten here. The answer was simple. I said no. Ray had started demanding my paychecks 6 months after he married my mother. "Family contribution," he called it. "Everyone pulls their weight around here." I was 16. I worked 20 hours a week at a sandwich shop, making $7.50 an hour. After taxes, my checks were maybe $120. Not a lot, but it was mine. I was saving for college, for a car that actually ran, for a future that didn't involve Ray's cigarette breath and wandering eyes. The first time he asked, I said I needed the money for school supplies. He let it go. The second time, he said it wasn't optional. My mother stood behind him, arms crossed, nodding along like a backup singer. The third time, I said no. That's when things got bad. Ray started finding reasons to punish me. Curfew violations I didn't commit, chores I'd supposedly forgotten, disrespect, attitude, whatever he could invent. My mother went along with all of it. She'd stopped looking me in the eye months ago, and when she did, there was nothing there. No warmth, no recognition. Just a woman who'd chosen her husband over her daughter and couldn't afford to feel guilty about it. The night she kicked me out, I'd just gotten home from work. It was a Thursday. I remember because my paycheck had come that day, $127.43, direct deposited into the account my father had opened for me before he died. The account Ray didn't know about. He was waiting in the living room. My mother was sitting on the couch, not looking at anyone. "Where's the money?" Ray asked. "What money? Don't play dumb with me, girl. Your paycheck. I know you got paid today. Hand it over." No. The word just came out. I didn't plan it. I didn't think about the consequences. I was just tired. Tired of being afraid. Tired of being small. Tired of handing over pieces of myself to a man who'd never earned any of them. Ray's face went red. He took a step toward me, and for a second I thought he was going to hit me. I almost wished he would. At least then there would be evidence. At least then someone might believe me. But he didn't hit me. He smiled instead. A cold, ugly smile that made my stomach drop. "Connie," he said, not taking his eyes off me. "Get her stuff." My mother stood up. She walked past me without a word, went upstairs, and came back 5 minutes later with a garbage bag full of my clothes. "Mom," "You heard him." Her voice was flat, empty. "Get out." "I'm 17. You can't just—" "You're not my daughter anymore." She said it like she was reading off a grocery list. Like it meant nothing. Like I meant nothing. "Get out of my house." She threw the garbage bag at my feet. Ray opened the front door. And just like that, I was standing on the lawn in February, watching my mother close the door on 17 years of my life. I didn't cry. I was too shocked to cry. I just picked up the bag, walked to the bus stop, and rode to the only place I could think of, the parking lot behind the sandwich shop where I worked. My manager found me the next morning, asleep in my car with the engine running for heat. Her name was Rosa Delgado, and she was the first person who'd ever looked at me like I mattered. "Destiny? What are you doing here?" I told her everything. The stepdad, the paychecks, the fight, the lawn. She listened without interrupting, her face getting harder and harder. When I finished, she pulled out her phone. "You're coming home with me," she said. "I have a spare room. You can stay as long as you need." "I can't ask you to—" "You're not asking. I'm telling." She put a hand on my shoulder. "Nobody should have to sleep in their car, especially not a kid. Rosa saved my life. I say that without exaggeration. She took me in, fed me, made sure I finished high school. She let me work extra shifts at the restaurant and taught me everything she knew about running a kitchen. She co-signed my first apartment lease. She believed in me when I had no reason to believe in myself. When she died 4 years ago, heart attack, completely unexpected, I closed all 7 of my restaurants for a day. I named my flagship after her, Rosa's, the place my mother had just walked into without knowing any of this. Funny how life works. I watched them order appetizers. Watched Ray make some joke that made everyone laugh except Brittany. Watched my mother sip her wine and survey the room with an expression of smug satisfaction, like she was better than everyone here. She had no idea she was sitting in my kingdom. The thought should have made me feel powerful. Instead, it just made me feel tired. Their server was a woman named Keisha, one of my best. I'd trained her myself 3 years ago, promoted her to head server last spring. She approached the table with her usual warmth, took their drink orders, explained the specials. At one point, Ray snapped his fingers at her. Actually snapped his fingers, like she was a dog. Keisha smiled politely and kept going. Professionals don't react to rudeness. They document it and move on. I made a mental note to give her a raise. The appetizers arrived. The entrees followed. My mother ordered the lobster, the most expensive thing on the menu naturally. Ray got a steak, complained it was overcooked when it was clearly medium rare as ordered, and sent it back. The kitchen made him a new one without complaint. Brittany barely touched her food. She picked at a salad, scrolled through her phone, and looked like she wanted to disappear. Every few minutes, my mother would lean over and say something sharp, and Brittany would roll her eyes and sink lower in her chair. I remembered that feeling. The constant criticism, the endless scrutiny, the knowledge that nothing you did would ever be good enough. Looking at Brittany now, I wondered if history was repeating itself. Dessert came, candles on a cake. The whole restaurant sang happy birthday to my mother, which she accepted with false modesty and a wave like she was royalty. She was 62 today. I knew because I'd done the math when I saw the reservation. She'd been 52 when she kicked me out. A whole decade of her life that I'd missed. Birthdays, holidays, whatever passed for family milestones in the Hollis household. I hadn't missed any of it. Not really. I'd just built something better. The bill came. Ray made a show of looking at it, then handed it to his brother to split. Classy. And then my mother did something that changed everything. She waved down a passing server, not Keisha, someone else, and said, loud enough that I could hear from across the room, "This place is wonderful. I'd love to speak to the owner if they're here. I want to compliment the management." The server smiled. "Actually, the owner is here tonight. Let me point her out to you." And then she turned and pointed directly at me. Time slowed down. I watched my mother's face as she followed the server's gesture. Watched her eyes land on me, narrow in confusion, widen in recognition. I raised my wine glass in a small salute. Her face went white. For a long moment, nobody moved. The server walked away, oblivious to the bomb she'd just detonated. Ray was saying something about the check, not paying attention. Brittany was still on her phone, but my mother was frozen, staring at me like she was seeing a ghost. Then she stood up. "I'll be right back," she said to the table. Her voice was strange, thin. She walked toward me. I didn't stand. I didn't need to. This was my restaurant, my table, my territory. She was the one approaching, and I was going to make her come all the way. She stopped about 3 feet away, close enough to talk, far enough to run. "Destiny?" "Hello, Connie." Her jaw tightened. She'd always hated when I called her by her first name. Too bad. This is your restaurant?" "One of them. I have 7 now." "7?" The word came out choked. "You own 7 restaurants." "The first one opened 6 years ago. Small place downtown, 40 seats. It did well, so I opened another. Then another. Rosa's is the flagship. We just hit our 4th anniversary." I gestured at the room around us. The exposed brick, the soft lighting, the packed tables, the well-dressed clientele. Everything I'd built from nothing. "You named it Rosa's," my mother said slowly. "After that woman who worked at the sandwich shop. She didn't just work there. She owned it. And she took me in after you threw me out. She gave me a place to sleep, taught me the restaurant business, helped me apply to culinary school." I paused. "She was more of a mother to me in 4 years than you were in 17. My mother flinched. "Good. Destiny, I'm not finished." My voice was calm. I'd practiced this moment in my head 1,000 times, and I wasn't going to rush it. "You kicked me out in February. It was 20 degrees outside. I was 17 years old, and you threw my clothes on the lawn and told me I wasn't your daughter anymore. Do you remember what I did after that?" She shook her head. "I slept in my car for 3 weeks until Rosa found me. I worked double shifts, sometimes triples, saving every penny I could. I got my GED because I couldn't go back to school without a home address. I put myself through culinary school on scholarships and loans and sheer willpower. I worked in kitchens for 12 hours a day, 6 days a week, learning everything I could. I saved for 5 years until I had enough to open my own place. And then I did it again, and again, and again." I leaned forward slightly. "You know what I never did? I never gave up. I never let what you did to me define what I could become. Every time I wanted to quit, every time I felt sorry for myself, I remembered you standing in that doorway telling me I wasn't your daughter. And I used that anger to push harder." My mother's eyes were wet. She was trembling slightly. "So thank you, Connie. Seriously, thank you for kicking me out. Thank you for showing me exactly who you were. Because if you hadn't, I might have spent my whole life trying to earn your approval instead of building something actually worth having. I made a mistake." Her voice cracked. He was different back then. He had financial problems. He was stressed. And I was trying to keep the family together by choosing him over me. I didn't see it that way. You didn't see it at all. You didn't want to. I shook my head. You know what the worst part was? It wasn't the cold, or the hunger, or the fear. It was knowing that my own mother would rather lose her daughter than stand up to her husband. That's what I had to live with. That's what kept me up at night. My mother wiped her eyes. Mascara smeared across her fingers. I tried to find you, she said. A few years ago. I looked you up online, but I couldn't. I changed my name. What? Vaughn. It was my father's mother's maiden name. I changed it legally when I turned 18. I didn't want anything connecting me to you or Ray. The words hit her like a slap. She actually stepped back. You changed your name. I changed everything. My name, my city, my life. I started over completely, and I built something you can't touch, something you can't take credit for or claim as yours, or use against me. I did it alone, and it belongs to me. Behind her, I could see Ray getting impatient. He was looking around for her, craning his neck, probably ready to complain about something else. Your husband is looking for you, I said. You should get back to your table. Destiny, please. Can't we what? Make up? Be a family again? I almost laughed. You had your chance, Connie. You chose Ray. You chose a man who wanted to steal from your teenage daughter over the daughter herself. That's not a choice you get to take back. But I'm your mother. No, you're not. I stood up, not to intimidate her. She wasn't worth that much effort. Just to signal that this conversation was over. Rosa was my mother. The teachers who helped me get my GED were my family. The people who believed in me when I had nothing. They're my people. You're just a woman who gave birth to me and then threw me away when it became inconvenient. My mother started crying. Real tears now. Not the theatrical kind she used to get sympathy at parties. I felt nothing. Your bill has been taken care of, I said. Consider it a birthday gift. But this is the last thing you'll ever get from me. Don't come back to this restaurant. Don't try to contact me. We're done. I walked past her, toward the kitchen, where I belonged. Destiny! I stopped but didn't turn around. I'm sorry. Her voice broke on the word. I'm so sorry. I know, I said. But it doesn't matter. I pushed through the kitchen doors and let them swing shut behind me. Rosa's kitchen was organized chaos, same as every Saturday night. Tickets printing, pans sizzling, cooks calling out orders in a rhythm that sounded like music if you knew how to listen. I'd spent thousands of hours in kitchens like this one, working my way up from dishwasher to line cook to sous chef to head chef to owner. This was where I belonged. Not out there, dealing with the past. In here, where the work was honest and the results were tangible and nobody cared who your mother was or what she'd done to you. Marcus found me 20 minutes later. He was my business partner, my closest friend, the person who'd believed in my expansion plan when everyone else said I was crazy. Janelle told me what happened. He said, You okay? I'm fine. You don't look fine. I just told my mother I never want to see her again. I think I'm allowed to look a little shaky. Marcus leaned against the prep station. What did she say? She apologized. Said she tried to find me. And? And nothing. An apology doesn't erase 10 years. It doesn't give me back my childhood, or undo the months I spent sleeping in a car, or resurrect Rosa so I could thank her one more time. I picked up a dish towel just to have something to do with my hands. She made her choice a long time ago. I made mine tonight, which was to let it go. All of it. The anger, the hurt, the need for her to understand what she did. I'm done carrying that weight. Marcus nodded slowly. Good. You've been carrying it long enough. Yeah, I have. We stood in comfortable silence for a moment. The kitchen noise washed over us. Tickets, timers, the sizzle of butter in a hot pan. For what it's worth, Marcus said. I'm proud of you. Not for the restaurants or the money or any of that. For walking away tonight. That takes guts. Thanks. You want to come over later? Jenny's making her terrible casserole. The kids want to see Aunt Destiny. I smiled. My first real smile in hours. Yeah, that sounds good. I took off my apron and hung it on the hook by the door. Through the kitchen window, I could see the dining room emptying out. Saturday night winding down. Another successful service in the books. My mother's table was empty. They'd left while I was in the kitchen. Part of me wondered what she'd told Ray, how she'd explained her puffy eyes and shaking hands. Part of me didn't care. I walked through the dining room, saying goodnight to the servers, complimenting the busboys, stopping to chat with a few regulars. This was my routine, my ritual. Every night I worked, I made sure to touch every part of the restaurant before I left. It kept me connected, reminded me what all of this was actually about. Near the front door, Keisha caught my arm. "The woman from table 12, she said quietly. "The birthday lady. She left this for you." She handed me a napkin. There was writing on it, cramped and hurried. "I'm sorry. I know it doesn't fix anything, but I want you to know that I think about you every day. I've never forgiven myself. I hope someday you can forgive me, even if I don't deserve it. Mom." Underneath was a phone number. I looked at the napkin for a long moment. The handwriting was shaky, the words smudged. She'd been crying when she wrote it. Then I crumpled it into a ball and dropped it in the trash can by the hostess stand. "Thanks, Keisha. Have a good night." I walked out into the cool evening air. The parking lot was mostly empty now, just staff cars and a few late diners finishing up. My car, a modest sedan, nothing flashy, was parked in my usual spot by the back entrance. I didn't need a fancy car. I didn't need a big house or expensive clothes or any of the trappings that people like Ray use to prove their worth. I'd learned a long time ago that the things that matter can't be bought. I drove to Marcus's house with the windows down. His kids tackled me at the door, showing me drawings and demanding piggyback rides. Jenny's casserole was as terrible as promised, and we all pretended it was delicious while sneaking bites of bread to fill up. After dinner, I sat on their back porch with a glass of wine, watching the kids chase fireflies in the yard. Jenny came out and sat beside me. "Marcus told me what happened." "Of course he did. How are you feeling?" "Honestly, I thought about it. Really thought about it. Lighter," I said finally. "Like I've been holding my breath for 10 years and I finally exhaled." "That's good." "It is. I think I expected to feel, I don't know, triumphant, vindicated, like I'd won something. But it's not like that. It's just over. She's not this looming presence anymore. She's just a sad woman who made bad choices and has to live with them. And you don't have to live with them anymore." "No, I don't." Jenny squeezed my hand. "For what it's worth, I think you handled it perfectly. You said what you needed to say and then you walked away. That's strength. Rosa would have been proud. Rosa would have been thrilled. She always said you were going to be something special." I smiled. "She said that?" "All the time. Before she died, she told me to keep an eye on you. Said you were going to change the world, but you'd need people to remind you to slow down sometimes." My eyes stung. Even now, 4 years later, missing Rosa could hit me out of nowhere like a wave. "I wish she could have seen the flagship," I said. "She would have loved it. She sees it. Wherever she is, she sees it." I wanted to believe that. Maybe I did. The kids came running up, begging for ice cream. Jenny went inside to play the bad cop, and I was left alone with the fireflies and the wine and the strange, unexpected peace that had settled over me. 10 years. 10 years since a scared 17-year-old slept in a Honda Accord and wondered if she'd ever amount to anything. 10 years since a woman named Rosa looked at that scared kid and saw something worth saving. 10 years of work, sacrifice, failure, success, heartbreak and triumph. And now, finally, closure. I didn't know what would happen next. Maybe my mother would try to contact me again. Maybe she'd respect my wishes and stay away. Maybe Ray would convince her that I was ungrateful, that she was better off without me. Whatever happened, it wasn't my problem anymore. I'd built a life I was proud of, a business that employed over 200 people, friendships that felt like family, a future that belonged entirely to me. My mother had thrown me away like garbage, and I'd turned myself into gold. Months passed. The restaurant kept thriving. I opened an 8th location, this one in a neighboring city, expanding faster than I'd ever dreamed possible. The local paper did a feature on me, from homeless teen to restaurant mogul, and suddenly everyone wanted to know my story. I told them, not all of it, not the worst parts, but enough. The car, the cold, the mentor who saved me, the years of grinding, the first restaurant, the slow climb up. I left out the part about my mother's birthday dinner. Some things were just for me. One afternoon, I got an email. The subject line was, Please read this. It was from Brittany. I stared at it for a long time before opening it. Hi, my name is Brittany Hollis. I think you're my half-sister. My mom is Connie. I know you probably don't want to hear from anyone in our family. I get it. I heard what happened at the restaurant. Mom came home crying and wouldn't talk about it for days. Dad, my dad Ray, your stepdad I guess, said you were ungrateful and bitter and we should forget about you. But I did some research. I found articles about you, about your restaurants, about how you started. And I realized you're basically the only person in my family who actually did something with their life. I'm 17. I'll be 18 in 3 months. And I need to get out of this house. I'm not asking for money or a job or anything like that. I just wanted to say that I think what you did was amazing. And I'm sorry for what my parents did to you. And if you ever want to talk, I'm here. Brittany. I read the email 3 times. Then I wrote back, Brittany, I'm not going to pretend I have warm feelings about your family, but you're 17, and none of what happened was your fault. You were born into a mess you didn't create. If you need help getting out, I can provide resources. Not money directly. I've learned that money creates complicated dynamics, but information, scholarships, housing programs, job placement services, the things I wish someone had told me about when I was your age. If you just want to talk, that's okay too. My door is open. But understand that I can't be your family, not really. I can be an ally. A mentor, maybe, if you're interested in the restaurant business. But I'm not in a place where I can have a relationship with anyone connected to Ray and Connie. I hope you understand. Take care of yourself. You're almost out. Destiny. She wrote back within the hour. Thank you. An ally is more than I've ever had. I thought about Rosa, about the way she'd looked at me that morning in the parking lot, a scared kid with nowhere to go, about the choice she made to help instead of walk away. Maybe I could be that for someone else. Not for Connie, not for Ray, but for a 17-year-old girl who was stuck in the same trap I'd escaped, looking for a way out. The cycle of damage didn't have to keep repeating. Someone could break it. Rosa had broken it for me. Maybe I could break it for Brittany. It wouldn't fix what happened. Nothing would fix that. But it might turn something ugly into something useful. It might give meaning to all those nights in the car, all those years of anger. It might be enough. I hit reply and started typing. Let's get coffee. I'll tell you everything I wish I'd known at 17. And then, we'll make a plan. This is how you survive what tries to destroy you. Not by becoming bitter, not by seeking revenge, but by building something so strong, so bright, so undeniably yours that the people who tried to break you have to live in its shadow. My mother threw me away, and I became someone worth keeping. That's the only revenge that matters.